welcome to episode 6 of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Newell. Guilty Pleasures. Let's go. Well, Philip, guilty pleasures.
Guilty pleasures, Jim. I suppose it's anything you enjoy, isn't it, that you don't really want anybody to know about. Music, television, anything that'll kind of put your mind at, kind of put you in a safe, kind of a happy place, if that makes sense.
A happy place as long as no one sees you doing it.
Exactly.
In preparation for this, have you looked up or heard of any guilty pleasures that you have yourself or that you've heard from other people?
So we got a couple of messages in actually during the week because we touched on wrestling last week.
Yeah. We talked about getting Bret the Hitman Hart in.
Yeah, so we're actively looking for good guests like that. But,
if anyone is a friend of the Hart family.
Yeah, well, actually, you know what? We found some new wrestlers this week.
Yeah?
From AEW.
Yes.
Yeah, it's class. So I don't know if he wants to be named, so I'll just call him an Everton fan with an incredible left foot.
Okay.
He was messaging. He was talking about wrestling, and I went down the rabbit hole with the whole lot. They have phenomenal wrestlers in this AEW now.
Yeah.
They've got some of the really really big boys in there.
Yeah, it's probably a lot.
Chris Jericho and
the lads who are superstars from elsewhere. I think in these smaller organisations, I've seen a few documentaries about it. I suppose with these smaller organisations, they're more into making a show and not just big budget lighting and storylines. It's really about like having a old school shock value.
Yeah, but you see, I think now listen, I know, but Jake Paul is now in the WWE. He's a wrestler now, or Logan Paul, and he's just using it as in my opinion, he's just using it. I know he could be a very talented wrestler, but he's just using it as another platform for his prime, for his shite energy drink.
Well, I was watching him on something the other day. There's a thing on Netflix called Golden or something. It's like Pawn Stars, but your man's like a high-end collectibles.
Right.
And he goes around he does everything. I love Pawn Stars as well. I've been watching YouTube. I've been down a guilty pleasure of YouTube.
We're talking about the same thing, right?
Pawn Stars.
When you mess Mia Khalifa.
The lowest I can go is 500, Phil.
Johnny Sins.
Yeah. But yeah, and he's on that. Your man is a big wealthy billionaire, and he gets retired.
What's it called? Golden.
Golden. It's just called Golden.
Oh, it's called Golden.
But his name is IN, like Golden. I think
it's
like a Jewish second name or something. But he goes around and he gets former NFL superstars to sell their whole collection in one go, and then they get millions and millions for it. But he was met with Jake Paul, and they were opening up these boxes of Pokemon cards.
Oh, they turned out to be fake or something?
No, there was nothing in them. But it was for each one they're paying $350,000 for a box of original Pokemon cards. I mean, how disconnected and crazy is that?
But I think this is the thing. This new wave of YouTube millionaire like Mr. Beast and Alex Botez and all these YouTubers who are just famous for being YouTubers, they spend their money on mad shite but they're just making so much money. Like Mr. Beast, I think he makes like $10 or $20 million a month on YouTube.
And just gives a load away. That's what I mean. Money, I think, especially since the gold stopped being backed by gold, it is just a made up thing. So it in a way, I think it's good not to be too careful with money and do what you want, really, and try not to hurt other people. But just when you hear someone paying $360,000 for something that I used to get as a kid for 50 cents,
Well, actually, let me tell you this. So people talk about inflation and people talk about the price of shopping and people talk
Freddos.
Right. No, it's even better. Well, it's similar.
Yeah.
Stinger bars.
Right.
How much was a Stinger bar when you were like 10p?
10p, but it might have been less even.
In our local garage.
Yeah.
I was coming back from a gig about 2 weeks ago and I stopped in.
Fancy the Stinger.
And I seen a Stinger. I was like, geez, I'm going to get a Stinger bar.
Yeah.
It's 2 o'clock in the morning. There's me guilty pleasure. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody knows that I'm going to eat this Stinger bar and I'm going to fucking eat it, right? So bought a Stinger bar. It was €1.
Fuck off.
Swear to God, €1 for a Stinger bar.
€1.
There's inflation.
And it's probably smaller now than it ever was before. Everything. If you look at tobacco in a cigarette, if you were to take the tobacco out to put it in somewhere for some other reason, you'll notice now that it's way less tobacco than it ever was before. And it's the same with chocolate. That's
Sir
fair
Walter Raleigh be spitting.
Yeah,
great.
I mean, it's probably bad for you. And the same with the chocolate. It's good to make it. Maybe you get less portions, but they cost more than they've ever cost. So they're giving you less for more money.
That's mad.
Capitalism, Philip.
I'm telling you, it was only. I tell you, I got into the car.
Banksy's going to have a thing about Freddos now. So just a Freddo throwing a petrol bomb.
Because when I did it, I went home and I was just saying it, and I had a look, and Curly Whirlies were 3p.
Yeah. Oh, back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, they're like 140 or 150.
And then whatever the dentist bill is.
Yeah. No, they were Calypsos. Do you remember Calypsos?
The ice pops.
No, so Calypsos were the ice pops. They're Calypos.
Calypsos, yeah.
Calypsos were similar to macaroon bars.
Right.
But Calypsos were green. And they were just one little thin layer of chocolate and a big rock solid layer
Caramel.
of like toffee or caramel that you had to nearly break your teeth to get out like.
Yeah. I've always been like a plain chocolate kind of guy. Really? Like an old well, I was. Now I'm different now. Since I get older. This is something I've noticed now since I've got older. Nearly all the things that I didn't like as I was younger, I like now. Like the foods. I've never been a fussy eater, like, but stuff like red wine or stinky cheese or mayonnaise. A lot of things that I didn't like as a kid, now I really like.
That's mad.
Yeah. Seems like it's like your palate
your palate changes.
Evolves or something. And my dad used to tell me, you like it when you're older. And I was like, there's no fucking way. My dad used to be like, I remember he used to give us like a pound to eat a square of blue cheese, and none of us could do it. And now, like, I'd pay £5 to eat a block of blue cheese with a glass of red wine. Oh, that's a guilty pleasure of mine now. Yeah.
An El Rioja.
An El Rioja. I'm not too fussy about it. I do like an El Merlot though. I've noticed.
I can't drink wine. It just puts me asleep.
Yeah?
Yeah, it just puts me asleep.
I find it makes me really contemplative. Like whatever I'm watching on the telly, I'll get like a lot of intuition, spiritually stuff. I put loads of connections together.
Through the grapes.
Through the grapes. But then the next day, like, of course, it takes, like, it's like any drug, I think, it can help you in the short term, but then the next day you're kind of drained, so the energy isn't there for it. So it's something you should probably use wisely and in moderation. But I do enjoy
moderation. I just come back from a stag in Prague.
Yeah.
4 days.
How moderate was that?
4 days on €1.80 pints.
Jeez.
Oh man.
Jesus.
Like no messing, because they're not. They come out in like kind of smaller than pint glasses, but 3/4 of it is beer, and there's always there's a quarter of a massive head. It's huge.
Same in Germany.
And so you drink, and I'm not messing. You drink well over 100 of them, no problem. You wouldn't even see them going like.
Yeah. 100 in the weekend? Are you talking about in a
city? Over the course of a few days. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You do 20 to 25 of them a day, no problem.
Yeah.
Like you'd throw them away.
And they don't. What's the alcohol like in them? You don't really care. You just fucking.
Well, I was in bad enough shape every night, so
had to be crawled back anyway.
But it was a good crew of lads. Any of the boys, I don't know if they're listening, but if any of them are, yeah, I was Froggy Stag. It was good crack.
Big up the lads and good luck to Froggy and the missus and the upcoming nuptials.
Yep,
that's away somewhere as well, is it?
Budapest, yeah.
Budapest. I'm going there myself.
Oh, you're going there this weekend, aren't you?
I'm going there on Sunday.
Have you been there before?
I haven't. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a similar thing, I hope. Cheap drinks and a lot of history and sunshine and rooftop spas. We're bringing the whole family, all the kids. First time we've been away together, and my second youngest lad's passport was gone, like was out of date, and panicked for the last few days. But I just seen on the thing today that it's been shipped, and they said it'll be next day delivery. So hopefully now we'll
be here tomorrow.
Should be here tomorrow.
That'll be brilliant.
So
do you know who we blame for that? England,
yeah.
England. When Brexit happened, you all went and tried to get your Irish passports.
Yeah.
Anybody who was eligible. I think there was 1 million, wasn't there?
And after all those years of trying to give us all English passports. Even the Romans knew better.
It's just on the guilty pleasures thing. With music. So I was watching an interview with Slash.
Right.
And he was saying his guilty pleasure is I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry.
Yeah.
He said he loves...
I would say that is it's a very catchy song. There's a few, actually. You know that song by Taylor Swift? It's one of her earlier ones now. The Romeo Say...
Oh, yeah.
That sticks in my head.
I do it at gigs.
Do you do it?
Yeah, I do.
I might start doing that as well. I love that song.
Because I think TikTok has kind of regurgitated it.
Yeah. But even back when she first released it, I really liked it.
Oh, no, it's a tune. Yeah. It's class.
It's really, really clever. It's like a archetypal story, Romeo and Juliet, with a lovely melody and really well put together. And there's a few Dua Lipa songs I like as well.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah. nice arrangements, and I don't know, a guilty pleasure. I just for music. Well, it is a guilty pleasure if you're in like a, you know, I know a lot of lads who are like heavy metal, death metal people, and they all have guilty pleasures where they like some kind of.
It was funny enough that thing that I was watching on Slash had all the heavy metal lads on the red carpet and they were asking them the same questions about their guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
Marilyn Manson came on and he said something horrendous. He said Justin Timberlake was my guilty pleasure. I met him and his mother. This is just Marilyn Manson true and true, right?
Yeah.
He said I met him and his mother and I told her women have 3 holes in their body. And then walks away, just being Marilyn Manson. So apparently Marilyn Manson's mad in the head, right? Remember during the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial? Do you remember during the...
Yeah, I remember. I didn't see any of it, but I remember.
So during that trial, her prosecution or whatever, or her defence, because Johnny was bringing her to court then. So her defence were saying to Johnny Depp, and you went on a drugs binge with Marilyn Manson. And he said no. And they said, but you gave Marilyn Manson drugs. And he said, yes. He said, what you have to know about Marilyn Manson is Marilyn Manson talks a lot. So I gave him a pill so he wouldn't talk anymore.
Which hole did he put it in, Johnny? And how many holes did he have?
But then, you know, Marilyn Manson, so we don't know because remember that age-old conspiracy theory? No, that he got his 2 ribs removed.
Oh, that people used to say that about Prince even before that.
So it was Marilyn Manson when we were all in school. Mechanical Animals had come out, and he was on the front. Do you remember with that bodysuit on that made him look completely dysmorphic?
Yeah,
and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, he had his ribs pushed apart." So it
was Prince back when I'm a few years older. It was Prince, maybe Madonna as well. Everyone, a lot of rib things. That's probably an archetypal thing from the Adam and Eve story.
A lot of people are like, a lot of people who haven't heard are like, ribs pushed apart so he could what? It'll be on the Patreon.
And there used to be a lot of stories about goats and stuff.
Was there goats?
Wasn't it something that he was filleting goats on stage or something like that?
Oh no! So he's done some really.
I know he's done some weird things.
Yeah. I know somebody brought him to court. No, was there not a sacrifice? Did he not sacrifice an animal at some stage and everybody went mad?
I don't know. It's like that thing with Ozzy Osbourne when he bit that head off the bat. Like he used to do it as a stage prop thing.
Yeah.
And then one day someone threw a real bat up, and he didn't know. Like so, it wasn't like he went up to do it. So maybe he did like some sort of sacrifice thing. Was part of the stage act, and people thought it was real. Or probably somebody. It's like Chinese whispers. You know, somebody saw one thing, and then when it gets back to little old Ireland, it's like, by the love of God.
But then Ozzy Osbourne was insane. Like Ozzy Osbourne, there's like Motley Crue.
The Dirt.
They did the whole thing just talking about Ozzy. And they are mad. Yeah. Like, you've seen The Dirt? Yeah. But they did a whole thing just talking about Ozzy. And they said, like, Ozzy Osbourne was insane. So, like, they had this thing where they'd be driving down the motorway on their tour bus and they'd have, like, $10,000 strapped to the top of it.
Yeah.
And everybody take PCP and angel dust and LSD, and you had to get out one window of the bus while it was driving, climb on top, get the money, and get in the other window without falling off the bus. And they said loads of people flew off the bus. Like, loads of boys would just tumble back and they'd be like, stop.
On the PCP, they're back up straight after the bus. Hey, I'm driving. But isn't that how Randy Rhoads died? He was in an airplane following the bus, and they were doing mad, his guitarist, yeah. They were in an airplane. They were buzzing the bus and all. Apparently, him and the pilot. That's how
flying over and back and all.
Flying over and back over the bus, and then they crashed in a field in Iowa or somewhere and died.
Jesus Christ!
Mad cunt, Sharon. Sheridan. That was one of the starts of reality TV. No, that Osbourne show.
Meet the Osbournes, definitely. Yeah. And do you know what's so mad? When that came out first, he was fucked then.
Yeah.
Like that was in the late 90s, and I was like, oh Jesus, he hasn't got long left. He's actually he's grand now. He's actually
Parkinson's.
Oh, has he now?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Because
everyone's getting the Parkinson's. I find a lot of people. It might have been something in the drugs in that era, because like Billy Connolly and a lot of people now are getting
Michael J.
Fox. A lot of people are getting Parkinson's from that.
Well, and I suppose maybe it's a front temporal dementia thing. Maybe it's because it's all in their front temporal lobe. Like Alice Cooper came out and he said that in the 1980s, he said nobody took more cocaine than Glenn Campbell.
Yeah,
he said. Now Glenn Campbell's an absolute hero, man.
Yeah,
I love Glenn Campbell.
I remember. I knew that within the first week of knowing you were gushing about Glen
Oh,
Campbell.
no.
He died actually when we were in Cyprus.
Yeah, that was very sad. But his mind went to
Mush.
yeah, like if you Google him and look at his last tour, it's really heavy. Like, you know,
People were blaming his family for pushing him out there just to cash in.
yeah, like the kids were in the band playing with him, and like, listen, it's not for us to say, but like for his last tour, he didn't really know where he was for a lot of it, you know.
Yeah.
But then I've read some of the stories about him back in the 80s, and if anybody wants to Google it, there's a very good video. It's called Glen Campbell Farm Aid, and he's doing a Try a Little Kindness with some other song. But if you go onto it and you just want to look like what somebody on so much cocaine that they're just about to die but are still functioning looks like, that's what you have to Google. So he used to go on.
Eyes like a rhinestone.
Oh, he got sunglasses on, and like they've pre-recorded the guitar because he's so fucked up.
Yeah.
So he keeps taking his hand off the guitar, and the guitar's playing away. Like.
Yeah.
And then he's about to do a guitar solo, and he tells the guy on the keyboard to do a piano or keyboard solo. He does that. He takes his hands off the guitar, and the guitar's still going. The guitar solo takes off anyway.
A lot of people have problems with their penis when they're on cocaine. Philip.
But he used to. So he'd take like loads of cocaine, and then he'd do his gig, and then he'd come off, and apparently he'd be still up for so many hours. He just studied the Bible. Yeah. For like 7 or 8 hours at a time. Like
so that was like his red wine.
That was his red wine.
I am a lineman for the county.
Some of the kids get up to go to Jackson.
Bogota County.
He's in the kitchen in the middle of the night. Ezekiel 25:17.
Did you ever see that Alive Inside? It's a documentary on Netflix about dementia.
No.
And how music, like you can take someone who's completely has dementia, and you play them a song from their youth.
Oh,
for that short time, they'll be right back in the room and they'll be perfectly lucid.
Oh yeah, so I've seen videos on people who are, you know, away saying things, and they'll play a song and they'll sing it like from start to finish. Yeah.
And that's so maybe in a way, when he'd started getting this dementia or whatever, his kids maybe playing music with him was the only time he was lucid, and maybe they thought, this is why we'll keep going with this. But
even at the very end, he didn't know his family, he didn't know anybody, and he could still pick up a guitar, and he could still, he could still absolutely nail any solo in the world. Like,
well, very underrated guitar player. Actually,
incredible. But he So he did all the guitar on most of the Beach Boys albums. He did he was
session
guitar, massive session guitar player.
Yeah. There's a lot of lads like that, actually, who are huge session players. Some of the lads out of the Eagles as well were big session players.
We're session players, but just in a different way.
Yeah. We play we play sessions. No one's putting us on their album. It seems to be a bit of a dying art, getting session music. Well, it's a dying art because... Oh, there's a bird after flying into the...
That happened in my house.
Did it?
That happened in my house like an hour ago.
Did it?
Because we've got a big window in the front.
Yeah.
And a bird just came and flew straight into the front of it. That's the second time that's happened today.
That's mad, yeah.
That's fucking mad.
Must be something to do with the lighting or something like that there. Or it's Armageddon.
Well, no, but
Steven Tyler can sing us out.
We
can stay away.
I live 20 minutes away. Is there something with the birds in the area, or are they after getting chemtrails?
I find birds...
Chemtrails are after blinding them.
I find birds really interesting. Even from a... If you ever sit and watch them, I always find it there. Do you ever see the way they fly? And it's like watching frequency waves. They fly in unison. I find
big packs of starlings and things like that.
I think they are they're kind of following. People say they don't know how they can get from the south to the thing, or how they have this navigation. But I have a feeling that they're just following vibrations, frequencies.
That's
a natural, a sense that we don't have or have lost or don't need at this point.
But do you know something?
But we don't run into windows.
We don't run into, not yet. It's early.
I have before, but not a top window anyway.
But I think you'll find out, right? Have you ever found, the only way we can do it, so in a gig scenario, have you ever found it that when something clicks in the middle of a really, really good gig, you know that everybody is on the same frequency? I've always found that some nights it's off and you're like, oh, but when it happens and when it works, it's just flowing. You can you could work anything in there that doesn't fit and it'll still fit. Yeah. When that happens, I could never explain it, but that's...
Yeah, I think it is. It's like I was on a walk the other day through the forest with the baby, and I was looking in the river and I was thinking, and that's how life is. All these rocks in the river, These are like, and we're the water that's flowing down. And at some point we're hitting the rocks and having to flow around it. But at some points we're just in open water and flowing perfectly well. And that's just life. It's just a river we're following down. There's obstacles in the way. And the more we can accept the obstacles in the way and realize that they are just another part of the path, the easier the flow is. We don't get too held up by the obstacles, and we don't get too excited by when we're in the free flow.
Just keep flowing around the rocks.
Just keep flowing around those rocks.
Just keep flowing around the rocks.
And I was also sitting there thinking, me and the baby were throwing stones into the river.
Just to put more obstacles in the water's way.
And I was, yeah. But I was thinking, is that not on some, like, is that not, if it wasn't for humans, that rock would never move from there to there. It's just like, we're like this instrument of, people would say chaos, but I would say it's more like free will being.
I'd look at it from the other perspective. I'd be the molecule of water going, fuck you, James.
Well, that's what I mean. We think of these distortions that we think of as problems in our lives, or things that we find hard to deal with, are really just distortions that we are given to work out. It's part of it's why we're here, really.
Yeah.
But guilty pleasures. Guilty pleasure is is throwing rocks into the water.
Definitely. But then now listen, so there's a very fine line between guilty pleasures and kinks.
Right.
Because kinks, I suppose with a guilty pleasure, you don't derive any sexual gratification from it.
Yeah.
Whereas kinks are very different. And the reason I say this is because I watched that Ashley Madison documentary on Netflix.
Yeah. You told me about it and I watched it after you. Binged it.
Binge, yeah, I watched
which is a guilty pleasure. I looked up what are guilty pleasures and says binge watching TV is a guilty pleasure.
Oh, definitely.
I didn't feel guilty about it at all. It was fantastic.
So that CEO.
Yeah.
Now, okay, again, he's a psychopath.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
What was it? He said, talk good about me, talk bad about me. Just talk about me. Yeah, so the Ashley Madison thing was mad. Like, I know some people listening to this are probably on or have used Ashley Madison, or, you know, like, so I come from a small town in Ireland. Now, in the small town in Ireland, there's always affairs everywhere. You know, in big cities, you don't recognise it as much.
Yeah.
But in small towns, you know, and some affairs they'll come out and people will go, yeah, you know, sure they were doing the bingo in the GA club for years together. You know, that kind of way, or like something like that. But then some affairs will come out in a small community and people will be like, how the fuck did them two even know each other?
Yeah.
Like, how did their paths ever cross? You know, like there's some mad
people
mad
who
things
like to have
that.
their finger on the pulse that are just blown away, they don't know.
And then Ashley Madison came along, and you know the concept of it was very clever.
Yeah.
You know, because
it's given a platform for something that's really does happen all the time.
Of course, yeah.
And it's given people a chance of anonymity. It's funny because I was at a funeral today, and they talked in the funeral about how this lady met her husband who only lived 3 doors down. And outside the funeral, I was talking to everybody else, and there was loads of people who, they all lived in the same estate. They knew each other, married for 30, 40 years. And I just thought to myself, how much smaller the world used to be. Like, everybody used to always be meeting people in their own neighbourhood, really. And that's how, and people would get married and lived their whole lives with someone who was from 4 or 5 doors down. Whereas now, like, you can swipe right on someone in fucking Indonesia.
So that wasn't that the thing about Tinder Gold back in the day? Allegedly, you could just put yourself in Addy City.
Yeah.
Back in the day. So if you were going to Amsterdam, or if you were going to Toronto, or if you were going to LA,
you could
you could put yourself there in advance to kind of
test the waters, as it was.
One of the lads was a scandal for that.
Yeah.
Just when you were saying there about people in the one housing estate or the one community, I listen a lot to the Two Johnnies podcast, and they're very good. The boys are hilarious, but they have an ongoing theme of swingers in Ireland. Like, apparently there's a big swinging community in Ireland.
Yeah.
But there was one girl messaged them in, and she was saying that in her housing estate, loads of the parents used to swing with one another. So like if there was a communion or a confirmation on, one parents would look after all the kids,
right,
and then all the other parents would go off and have a big.
Why not?
Have a big.
Let's talk about community
spirit.
Community spirit, yeah. Throw your keys in the bowl. So who's going to mind the kids? That's if everyone's consenting and in love, I think that's a great thing to have, like, to be able to do it. I mean, I have no, you know, say Ashley Madison, people having affairs and all. I think the problem with affairs, and they talk about it in it, is the lying and mistrust. Like, but there was people in it who were on it and they were in relationships and they were open with each other.
Oh yeah,
And
no.
that-
Listen, each to their own. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
It all.
So
it all
it's really.
depends
I
on
don't think the problem is really in the affairs, and that's why I didn't really blame Ashley Madison. Thing like you can go out. Your man's kind of saying one thing and selling another thing, but in a way, like it's just facilitating what's already going to happen, and maybe you could say it's in a. It makes it easier for people who want to do this, but it's more the lack of communication is what I got from.
Yeah.
And it's the same in every relationship. I've been in relationships that are the same. It's like you don't communicate about what you feel like you're missing out on, or when it gets into a monotonous stage, and a lot of people get bored and feel like the grass is greener elsewhere. And it's something that you learn as you're getting older that
it's not.
yeah, that's not. Yeah,
It's not.
The grass is never greener on the other side. My mate Travis used to tell me. I saw Travis back in the day supporting Oasis in the Point. It was then.
Right.
So they were deadly. This was before
They exploded.
before Travis became big. Yeah.
Well, one of the boys went to Nirvana. No, sorry, the other way around. He went to Sonic Youth in
Yeah.
Dublin in 1992,
Right.
and they were supported by Nirvana.
Deadly.
And Nirvana were like giving out free badges. You know, remember back then you sewed on badges to your jacket
Yeah.
or whatever, and someone handed him the Nirvana badge, and he was like, fuck, he threw it away.
Speaking of, that'd be worth more than a Pokemon card.
Oh, without a doubt. Logan Paul would be giving you $500,000 for that.
Yeah. I was thinking of guilty food pleasures. I'm good with. I don't have takeaways really that much. And
Jeez, I loved them.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a problem.
I've had points in my life when I loved them, but now I love cooking too much. And I've found that nearly every time I get a takeaway, I'm underwhelmed by it. And nearly every time I cook something, I really enjoy it.
You're right. Well, I have to give you the name of our Chinese. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, yeah.
Prepare to be overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah, they're over delivering. Because I find you can have the same Chinese, you can get it 2 weeks in a row. 1 week it'll be lovely, the next week it'll be
Oh no,
shite.
this place is consistent. Like,
Yeah?
I like. I'm not gonna.
on the
It's the most consistent Chinese I've ever been to.
Go on, give them a shout out.
It's always amazing. It's Ling's in Newtown, Mount Kennedy in Wicklow.
They won't deliver to me in San.
Like I drive from Enniskerry to Newtown, Mount Kennedy just to get a Chinese.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's that good. Like,
Ding-a-lings.
it's class.
Lovely. Yeah. There's one, I'll tell you one that is consistent and nice. It's an Indian. Spice Cottage in Sallynoggin.
Right.
That's lovely. When I lived in Sallynoggin, I used to get that quite often. And if ever I'm going down there around dinner time and I won't have time, if I was going to get a takeaway, that's where I'd probably get it from.
Good stuff. Yeah, that's actually yeah. Send us in. Where's your favorite takeaway? Where's your favorite Chinese? Thanks a million to everybody who has been on the little message box there on Spotify. Thanks a million to everybody who has been sending us messages.
Yeah.
It's good crack reading them.
We've got ideas for this podcast. Someone wrote in, tell us about guilty pleasures would be a good topic.
Wrestling was the big one that
Yeah.
I was chatting away to a lot about wrestling. So we're really I've gone down the rabbit hole with the wrestling.
I've been down it. About maybe last year, I started watching all these podcasts and documentaries about the wrestling business. No interest in watching wrestling matches or anything like that since I was a kid, but the business is fascinating.
Oh, it's class.
How there used to be territories and how it used to work. It was like basically like a gang turf war until Vince McMahon kind of took over it. Young Vince McMahon. But just the way they used to go around and they used to have crazy parties and all the drugs and stories and orgies and
All the madness.
all the madness.
Well, we will have a wrestler on very soon. We can confirm that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been in talks.
We've been
He
in
may or
talks.
may not be part of the Hart dynasty. Mickey Joe Hart. Yeah, I think we should we'll probably do a full podcast on
On
wrestling
at some
business.
stage,
Yeah,
definitely.
Just because it's so
with a
interesting.
wrestler.
With a wrestler,
because
yeah.
who'll know better than a wrestler?
Yeah,
so that's what we do.
Yeah, we'd like to get guests on that we can tailor a podcast around them, and like they'll be experts and we'll be, shite talkers.
Yeah. So we've actually had a bit of a mad message. This is kind of ties in with the guilty pleasures, but peeling your skin when it's sunburnt, like a snake, like
Yeah, like a snide.
like a snake. But so that's a guilty, so we're not going to name you, but you're out there deriving pleasure from peeling.
Some people like this popping spots on people's backs and all.
Did you never watch the videos on it?
I've seen the videos.
I love watching.
I mean,
them,
it's
yeah.
satisfying a bit, but like I wouldn't be like, oh, let me do that spot in your back. I like to do my own one maybe, but even then it's a bit sore. But when you say about peeling the skin, it reminds me of that episode of Malcolm in the Middle when Reese he gets so badly sunburned that he peels his whole skin off and he makes himself a Reese suit. It's Absolutely. Malcolm in the Middle is one of the best of, like, for a TV show that was, you couldn't use language and all. It was like at a time where it was appealing for kids and adults.
And there was all the double entendres.
I think it's one of the greatest shows ever. I don't know. They should bring. Well, they can't bring it back. Everyone's too big in it.
No, well, they can't. Sure, his father died. He went into selling crystal meth and then.
That's right. Yeah.
My family.
Heisenberg. I thought your name was Hal. Top show. So guilty pleasures, like I said, once you pop, you can't stop type thing is fizzy jellies.
Oh Jesus! Yeah.
If I
know any jellies, any sweet things like just yeah. What
Well,
kind of do you like? Cola bottles?
No, that's the one. I mean, I'll eat them, but if in a thing of jellies, the cola bottles are my least favorite.
Do you mean like Tang Fastics?
Tang Fastics, I would have said until Lidl came along. Now Lidl have Happy Bears, Fizzy Bears, and Fizzy Worms, and these are
like the fizziest.
These are crack cocaine to me. Like I pop my hand in a Fizzy Worm bag, and I'll take one Fizzy Worm, and I don't care if a 2-year-old child's holding that bag. I'm eating the rest of those jellies. I'm eating the rest of them. Every single one of them.
These German Fizzy Worms must be like they're not under EU standards.
Well, first of all, a bag of Fizzy Worms probably has 10 times as much in it as a bag of Tang Fastics and costs less.
Right.
They're all the same shape, but the flavours are all different.
My mouth's watering.
Oh, they're unbelievable. So what I like to do is I like to have a bit of chocolate. In my last few years, I got into the dark chocolate because you don't horse it down as much, but I'll have any chocolate. And then peanuts. So I have a bit of chocolate, a few peanuts, bit of chocolate, a few peanuts, bit of chocolate, a few peanuts, and then into the fizzies. I like the textures changing and the tastes changing. It's like a habit I've got into.
That's a guilty pleasure in itself.
Yeah, it is a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. We go through peanuts in my house like nobody.
I'll tell you why that's a guilty pleasure, because if I seen you doing that, I'd judge you.
Yeah. Well, I go into Lidl every time I'm doing a shop. I get 6 or 7 bags of peanuts, and it doesn't last a week in our house because my missus eats them even more than I do.
That's
loves them. Even the baby loves them. He barely has enough teeth to have a peanut, but he'll give him 2 to chew on, and he'll be like, he'll look you in the eye and chew them. He picks them up off the floor and all.
So, folks, just on that, if anybody, thanks a million for listening. If anybody has any messages you want to send in, you've got the option there on Spotify there if you're listening on Spotify, if you're listening on iTunes, if you're listening on Audible, actually. So I was looking in our back end, and we've got some people listening on Audible. I didn't even know we were on Audible. I didn't know this was released on Audible.
Neither did I.
So we just send it to, the way this works is we send it to the company and they send it out to all the, it's on all the iHeartRadio and things like that. But apparently there's people listening on Audible, so that's very cool.
It's crazy. We should be getting some money then, because I pay for Audible.
Oh, do you?
And for Spotify. And I release music and vote. I've never got any of the money back. Hey! But anyone that is listening, and wherever you're listening, we really appreciate it. We know there's a big selection of things to waste your time with, and we're glad that you come and waste it with us here at the Temple Bard podcast. I have a song. By the time this is, speaking of fucking wasting your time, by the time this podcast is out, I will have released my song Offline, which is released on the 2nd. Everyone says never release music on a Saturday, so mine's coming out on Saturday, the 2nd of June. So that'll be out. I'm going to do a lot of silly content around it, so keep an eye out for that. And yeah, that's about it on the plug-in front. So that's it for the Temple Bard podcast, episode 6. Sláinte.
No, do it again, because say guilty pleasures.
Oh yeah. So that's it for the So that's it. So that's it for Cunnilingus, Philip. So that's it for episode 6 of the Temple Bard podcast. Guilty pleasures.
Sláinte.